making our Italian sprinkle cookies, and I've already started. I took 6 eggs and I beat them in the mixer on high speed for about 5 minutes. You want to get this nice fluffy consistency, and then you're just going to set them aside. Okay, we'll come back to those later. Okay, now in my bowl right now I have 5 cups of flour. We want to add 2 cups of powdered sugar, which is going to give these cookies a nice sweet flavor, which makes them just taste delicious. All right, so we're just going to add 2 cups. Now this is one of my favorite cookies. It's really my go-to cookie, I think, to make when I want to make cookies, just because it makes so many cookies and everybody really loves them, especially the kids. And if anybody knows me, they know, especially around the Christmas time, I love to bake. I mean, I love to bake all year, but around Christmas, if you walk into my house, I have a few hundred cookies just sitting out. I just love to keep making them. All right, we're just gonna set that aside. All right, so we have our powdered sugar. Now we need some baking powder. So we need about a little over a tablespoon of baking powder. We're just gonna add that right in here. So it's about a tablespoon and then 1.5 teaspoons. 1.5, okay. All right, so now we're gonna stick this on our mixing stand here, and we're gonna put it on low, and then we're gonna add our shortening, which I have about a cup of shortening right here, and we're gonna add our extracts. All right, now this cookie, it takes a while to make. There's not a lot of ingredients, it just takes a little while to make because you are making 130 cookies. All right, so we're gonna add our shortening in a second, and we're gonna add almond and lemon extract. And you know, the combination of these two together, it just makes these cookies taste awesome. And kids, I don't know what it is about the combination, it's not too strong, and kids come running. But of course, the sprinkles, I think, add that little extra touch for kids. All right, so we are going to first add our beater here. All right, and now, when I say mix it on low, I mean as low as you can, unless you have a huge bowl, but it will splash up and get everywhere. Kids might like that, but I don't like making a huge mess. All right, so I'm gonna turn it on low, and then I'm just gonna add again my extracts and my shortening, okay? All right, so what you want to get with this mixture is a nice crumb texture. So which we are about, just take a couple minutes of mixing. So about there. Then you're going to take the eggs that you beat earlier, and we're just going to slowly add these right in to here. All right, until you get a nice thick dough consistency. It's going to be a very, very thick batter. And so we're going to keep doing this. Now, if your kids are around and you want some help for the next part, because we're going to be rolling a lot of these little cookies, this is the time to get them. All right? So we're just going to get all that in here, and we're just going to let it mix. Up next, we're going to roll and finish our Italian sprinkle cookies. All right, so now we're going to start rolling these, and I've got my baking sheet ready with the parchment paper, and as you can see, it's a very thick batter. All right, so that's exactly what you want. All right, and again, it's a lot of cookies to roll. So it's basically, right now we're gonna be like rolling meatballs, but about 130 of them. Okay, so what I do is I just get a little teaspoon, and you're gonna make them small, bite size. All right, so I like 1 to 2 bites, the smaller the better. And so about an inch wide or so, and you're just gonna keep rolling. You know, one of the reasons I really love baking around Christmas is, I mean, all the different flavors you can bake with. I mean, personally, I love vanilla. That's one of my favorite flavors, and almond as well. I do use a lot of lemon when I bake my Italian cookies. So as you watch more episodes, you'll see I use, I mean, in my biscotti and a lot of other cookies, lemon is just incorporated. You know, my husband loves gingerbread. Not my favorite, but he loves it. So, you know, I find some recipes for that. Then you have the peppermint mocha, which is very popular, or pumpkin. So there's just so much you can do at this time of year. All right, so I'm just gonna keep rolling. And again, these have almond in them, but if you want, you can take the almond extract and substitute it with vanilla extract if you want, if you're not a big almond fan, or just try another extract. Just experiment. That's the fun part about baking. All right, so I'm just gonna put my last little cookie here on the cookie sheet. I have the oven preheated 350 degrees. You're gonna bake them for about 12 to 14 minutes, and check them, because depending on your oven, they could bake a little faster, quicker, shorter. And then you're gonna know they're done because the bottom of them are gonna turn a light brown, but the top doesn't turn brown, so just check the bottom. All right, so now we're gonna make the icing for the cookies. And this icing, it's very sweet. It tastes like candy, and that's why the kids absolutely love this part. All right, so we're gonna take about 3.5 cups of powdered sugar, all right? And you should get about 1/2 cup of milk, which I have here, and warm it up, maybe about 20 seconds in the microwave, not too long. Just enough to make it just warm enough. So that's about 3, and then we're just gonna guess. It's about 3.5. Okay. All right, we're gonna add a little bit of flavor to this icing, so we're gonna add a teaspoon of that lemon extract. Makes them smell really good around Christmas. So just a teaspoon of that. And then 1 teaspoon of vanilla, which is my favorite. All right. Okay. And then I'm gonna grab a spoon, a little whisk. And then you're gonna add 1/2 cup of milk, but add it slowly because you don't want to put too much. So I do a little bit at a time. Just put a little bit, and then you can just whisk it. And you want to whisk it so it's a nice smooth icing consistency, because then this is what we're going to use, and we're going to dip those little cookies right in here. Add a little bit more. And then you're going to pour on the sprinkles. My favorite part. Okay. All right, so this is what you're going to get. You're just going to make it nice and smooth until all that powdered sugar is mixed right in. And you want to make this while the cookies are baking, because as soon as those cookies come out of the oven, as soon as you can, I mean, you can let them cool for like a minute so you can touch them, but as soon as they're ready, you're going to dunk them in this. So they're going to be warm. So you want this ready to go. And trust me, you'll use most of this icing. It makes so many cookies. All right, so I think that's good. All right, so the cookies just came out of the oven. I'm giving them a little bit of time to cool because you want to be able to touch them because they're still a little too hot. But if your kids are around, this is the time to get your kids involved, because this is the fun part. Now, you got your sprinkles, you got your icing. I set it up like this, and I'm showing you this because this is how I let my son do it. Put it on top, and all the sprinkles, well, you try to get the sprinkles to catch into this pan. Now, I'm gonna make a mess, but it's Christmas. Let the kids have some fun, right? All right, so all you're gonna do is dunk your little cookie in the icing and cover it, and you're gonna take a little bit of sprinkles or a lot of sprinkles, and you're just gonna sprinkle it. Okay, and we're just gonna keep doing that. I think the more sprinkles, the better. When my son does it, he takes his whole hand and dumps like a handful. That's why the sprinkles get everywhere. Okay. And trust me, you'll be finding these sprinkles like a year later on the floor. They just go all over the place. All right. Okay. So this part takes a little while, but that's all right. This is fun. All right, so I'm just gonna finish up here, but you can find the recipe on our website. Definitely give them a try. Definitely get your kids involved in this one. And I'm gonna keep going here. I got about another 100 cookies to go. Up next, we're gonna make my favorite, chocolate chip biscotti. We are making chocolate chip biscotti today. These are definitely a family favorite in my family. All right, so far we have a little bit of salt in my bowl. We're just gonna mix the dry ingredients first. So we need about 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, which we're just gonna put right in the bowl here. All right, and then we need about 2 cups of flour. So biscotti were, I think, one of the first cookies I tried when I started baking. They were one of the first cookies I tried. And they were a little intimidating. I think a lot of people get intimidated by the biscotti just because, I don't know, you have to bake them twice, you gotta get that dough consistency just right. So it took me a few tries, but once you get it, you can have a lot of fun with biscotti. And they really don't take, there's not much prep work. They take a while to cook, but it's not a lot of prep work. All right, so we got 2 cups of flour in here. Set this aside. We're just gonna whisk this together and get it blended really well. And then we're just gonna set this aside. Okay. All right, now we need to get a lemon zested. All right, so I like to add lemon. So it's just 1 lemon we're gonna zest. And we're just gonna get that in the bowl and then set that aside too. Now I like to add lemon to all of my biscottis. Whatever flavor. I mean, I guess you have to be a little picky, but for the most part, when you add the citrus flavor to these cookies, it just brings out a lot of flavor. So I've used lemon and I've even used orange sometimes. So you could really do whichever one you want, but it really just adds an extra little touch and really brings out that good flavor. And it smells really good. Okay. It's about, I don't know, it's probably a little teaspoon and a half. All right, I have about 1/2 cup of butter in my mixer. I like to get that blended up a little bit first. And then we're gonna add 3/4 cup sugar right into the mixer. Just add it slowly so it doesn't get all over the place. I'm just gonna pour that right in and let that blend up together. And then we're just gonna put in that lemon zest. I just love the smell of fresh lemon, especially around Christmas. All right, so I'm just gonna dump that right in there. And so I'm just gonna let that mix for, I don't know, 20 seconds or so. You know, biscotti can be a lot of fun, so just don't get intimidated by baking them, because once you get that base recipe down, you can really have a lot of fun with the flavors. I mean, we're doing chocolate chip today, but I've done coconut. I've even done zucchini bread biscotti, right? That sounds very different. It's actually delicious. It's an awesome recipe. You know, you can do anything. Gingerbread, pumpkin biscotti, just plain simple anise flavored biscotti as well. So there's just so much you can do with it. All right, I'm just gonna scrape the sides down. You want to make sure it blends really well. Right. And then we are going low. We're going to add 2 eggs. You want to add them 1 at a time. And I've cracked my eggs already. I'm going to add them 1 at a time and let them blend in there really well. All right, and just keep, if you have to, just keep scraping down the sides of your mixer to get it blended really good. So just let that go. Okay, we're going to add 1 more egg. I'm just going to dump in the second egg and let that go. All right, so let that go for just another minute or so. You could put it up a little bit. So my biscotti have a little bit of a crunch, and you can make crunchier biscotti. I don't use cornmeal in these, but if you add some cornmeal and play around with the recipe a little bit, the cornmeal adds that extra crunch. If you really like extra crunchy, then definitely add cornmeal. I like them to be a little bit, crunchy, but not too crunchy, and that's this biscotti. So I'm just gonna scrape it one more time. And then we're gonna add the flour right in here. Okay. So we're just gonna get this out of the way. Get our flour, and we're gonna put this on low speed so it doesn't splash up everywhere. And you're just gonna dump your flour in. Right in. And get all of that in there. And just let that blend until it's just blended. Right, so I actually forgot to add a very important part, the vanilla. So you should add the vanilla right when you add the eggs, but we're just going to dump it in now. Because this really gives it an extra. I do 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I have done anise flavoring with the chocolate chip too, and actually that comes very, very good as well. So get creative. Have fun with it. Right, so I'm just going to put it up a little bit. I want to make sure it's mixed in really well. You don't want to over-mix your batter. Just get it so everything's blended really well. All right, so we took the dough off of our mixer, and you can see here it's a very, very sticky consistency. That is exactly what you want, extremely sticky. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to add my chocolate chips, and then we're going to form it into a log. I do about 13 inches long by 3 inches wide. All right, and so I'm going to dump them in, and I use a lot of chocolate chips. The more chocolate chips, the better, I say. All right, so you're just going to mix this together. And you know, I make a lot of different flavors of biscotti, but the chocolate chip are by far the most popular. I mean, right? It's like a chocolate chip cookie and a biscotti in one. You can't beat that. So we're just gonna mix it. And if you like nuts in your chocolate chips, you can add some nuts here too. Maybe back off on the chocolate chips a little bit and then throw in some nuts. Or really, this is where you can really add anything to the batter. If you know, any different flavor. You can do like pistachios or whatever you like. All right, so I think that's pretty good. All right, so you can see here it's extremely sticky. So this is where biscotti dough is very hard to work with. I have a little trick. Okay, so we're gonna dump it right on here. And you'll see it's hard to get out of extremely hard to get out. It's so sticky. You're just gonna dump it right on your lined parchment paper. Make sure you get all of it out. Almost. And then we're gonna, I have a little bit of water over here. It's so hard to look at. All right, I have a little bit of water that I use, and this is a trick to help you guys when you make these. Okay. Almost. I like all of this dough, all of those chocolate chips. All right, I think that's good. Okay, set that aside, wipe my hands off. All right, so what I do is do a 13 by 3 inch log, okay? So I get a little bowl of water, just a little bit of water. And what you're gonna do is get a little bit of water on your hands, not a lot. And this is gonna help you form the log. Because then it makes the dough won't stick as much. But I think this is why some people don't like to make biscotti, because they find this part to be a little challenging. But it's not too bad. If you just wrap your hands around it and tuck them under, and just keep pressing it down and forming it into that long, long log. And then once we get this ready, we're gonna stick them in the oven at 350 for about 35 to 40 minutes. It really depends, I think, on Depends on your oven. So check them at 35 minutes, I say, and then if they need a little bit more time, you're gonna wanna cook them till they're a nice brown, not too brown, but brown enough, because then you gotta bake them again. Don't forget, twice baked. Okay, that's good. Good enough, doesn't have to be totally perfect. And then we're just gonna pop this in the oven. Right, so the biscotti is out of the oven, and you can tell right here, just look at it, it's a nice light brown, okay? It's not too dark. And so we're just gonna take, and when it comes out of the oven, you wanna let it cool for about 30 minutes. You don't want it too hot, or when you try to cut them, the whole thing might fall apart. All right, so this is where we're gonna make the actual biscotti, all right? So you're gonna just cut the biscotti as thick as you want, all right? I like them a little thicker, but you just cut them all, and we're just gonna put them right back on that baking sheet, and then we're gonna put them back in the oven for about 15 minutes at 350 degrees, so that's just twice baked, and they're gonna get nice and crunchy. Okay, we got them all cut. Get our baking sheet back. I'm just gonna flip this over, and you just want to place them face down back on your baking sheet. All right, and you can just see all these chocolate chips, and they're so good. Sometimes my family comes running over and eats them before we even bake them a second time, because they're still good. All right, just stick them all on here. And this recipe makes about 20 cookies or so. It depends how thick you cut them. Okay, so we're just gonna put this back in 15 minutes. All right, now it's time to enjoy these cookies. And nothing goes better with some biscotti and sprinkle cookies than a good cup of coffee. So you can find these recipes on our website. I think the tough decision now is to decide which cookie to eat first, because they just look delicious. All right, I'll see you guys next time on Christmas at Home.